Good morning, my friends. How wonderful of you to come. I've been up since really early this morning, listening to a talk on attachment, human attachment and awakening. A fellow sent me a paper. His name is Hoffman. I looked something up that I thought was on my computer today, Taking Refuge in the Buddha. Oh, here's this article. Actually, it's right up here. It's Kent Hoffman. He wrote this in 1997, and he was on a retreat with me and sent it to me. It's been lost in my computer all these years, and it popped up this morning, and it opened up all these doors. He's still teaching in Spokane and Seattle. He spent years working with people on Skid Row, and he wrote an article on attachment and the Dharma. Beautiful. And one of the lessons that is clear in his writing is how much we need each other. And it's not an idle need, it's such a need that the Buddha put it in as the third refuge. I take refuge in the Sangha, in community. And so that's part of what I want to talk about today. But I'd also like to, actually what I'd like to do is spend about 3 hours with each and every one of you in a really nice context with a good view where we could just get to know each other. Now that would be a good time. And I realized this morning that's why I love doing interviews on retreats, because I get to meet with people who that we both have our defenses down, and so we get to truly meet each other. So, with that in mind, since I can't have my first choice, I invite you to turn to a neighbor, and let's see, what shall the project be today? Tell them about one very beautiful and generous thing you've done in your entire lifetime. So it doesn't have to be a Nobel Prize generosity, just some kindness that you've done that you feel good about. And also maybe your name. ringing that gong is the ultimate party pooper. It's almost as bad as entering a room at midnight in which there are 13, 14-year-old girls all on their phones and telling them to put them away. It's like, the severing of contact is just extraordinary. Feels a little better to be connected, doesn't it? It's the best thing in my life, actually. It's the only thing that really matters. That and emptiness, freedom. Those two, this and this. Fortunately, we get to practice both here. So, please take a comfortable, upright posture. Anybody here for the first time? Raise your hand. Promise we won't bite you. Good, okay. I hope this turns out to be a worthy experiment this morning, and I honor your seeking, honoring your, whatever that call is from within. And I would encourage you, if you don't find a fit here, look, don't give up. Because here in Portland, there are representatives of all the great spiritual traditions. And you can find a fit. So, let's sit here and do nothing for half an hour. That would be really a skill if we could do that. Let's do nothing. Alternately, we might do some things that have to do with bringing awareness into the present moment. So we could have the eyes closed or open and just be aware that there's a body sitting here. And of course, or maybe not so of course, but please notice that you don't find anything resembling a body. What you find is life. You find warmth and coolness and pressure. Even these don't exist. They're just names for something absolutely mysterious. Life. Notice that you can somehow or another convey or inspire awareness to open in that little quadrant or the coordinates of the universe that you call your feet. And your hands and your face. We can also intentionally bring awareness to be aware of the rising and falling of the chest and abdomen or the sensations at the nostrils. the sensations of what we call breathing. You've probably noticed that there have been unpredicted thoughts. There might be a litany of things going on in the mind. There could be emotional anguish, or there could be longing for some future event, or regret about some past event. Some thoughts of self-praise or self-blame. What's truly remarkable is that awareness can notice these thoughts and their accompanying emotions. Normally we think we are our thoughts. We are identified with our thoughts and emotions. That's a very pervasive story, belief, perception. Is it true? If there's awareness of a thought, or of a mood, or an emotion, how could you possibly be that thought, or mood, or emotion? So we're doing an exercise which makes the impersonality, the out-of-controlness, the unsatisfactoriness of thoughts and emotions and moods more and more obvious. It's a simple practice, the practice of being awake, difficult to remember to do. So we're going to sit for a while silently. I invite you, come home to be aware of the breath and the body sitting, to notice how you fall into the trance of thinking, the trance of everyday life, the trance of personality. But then notice also how there's spontaneous waking up from the same trances. if there is something with which you are internally struggling, some thought, some emotion, some sleepiness or some restlessness. What if you stopped fighting it? Often we're afraid that if we don't fight something, it will take over. In an odd, contrarian way, the more we fight inner states, the more they stick around. So if there's physical pain or emotional pain or some thought that just won't stop, what if you bowed to it? Set it a place at the table. Let it happen. If you're lost in it for 30 seconds or 20 minutes, what a perfect opportunity then to wake up, for that particular trance to be illuminated by mindfulness. Mindfulness and compassion. Please set yourself free from the story that if you could just focus on your breath and develop terrific concentration, all will be well. Mindfulness of breathing is a strategy. It's not the goal. as we come to the end of this period of silence, please let us pay attention to the very miracle of awareness. The fact of awareness. The fact that there's a way we can somehow apparently manipulate it, like pay attention to the feelings in your hands or your feet. To pay attention to sounds. It is perhaps the ultimate human mystery, this awareness. And the fact that we can apparently cultivate it, is what the Buddha discovered. Where is that awareness localized? Can you ever find where it's localized? Or where do the thoughts come from? I've never found it in 40 years looking. And now for the purposes of my Dharma talk, I'm going to ask you to do something kind of unusual. It's a bit like opening a box that you might prefer to keep closed. So in doing it, I invite you to maybe just peek in, or if you'd like to look at it on a computer screen, that'd be fine. Or maybe it's like someone pulls it out behind that inch-thick bulletproof plastic at the bank. Some banks. What is the thought that your particular mind thinks that you'd really rather it didn't? What is its opinion about you? Or if there's one thinking process you'd like to eliminate from your consciousness, a simple sentence or two. And now let's carefully put it back in the box. And I invite you to come here to the present moment, to feel your body sitting here, to notice your breath. And to ever be interested in the fact that with these words, I'm going to encourage you to observe the process, the intention, to let your eyes open. And then ever so carefully, slowly, watch as your eyes open and seeing begins. And there's awareness of seeing and knowing it. Seeing. And then maybe seeing and stretching. Notice that awareness can notice the feelings of stretching. Do you have the sense that meditation is over? Why not just continue to be present when you're stretching? Why do you suppose that during that meditation, I was involved in the negotiations for a strip mall in Srebrenica? What? Or that this mind reminded me of the scariest car ride in my entire life, which was in Yugoslavia, what was then Yugoslavia. There was a Yugoslavia focus in the one. There was this absolutely insane fellow that picked up my girlfriend and I and drove us at ridiculous speeds. Why we didn't get out, I don't know. But it still inhabits in here, and I discovered that hallucination, that trance, had gotten a minute or more into its journey before awareness came on. It really is insane, isn't it? Did anyone have a similar bizarre trip in the mind while you were here? Raise your hand if you did. Yeah. I think the rest of you are not being honest. So, Jim, would you continue to consciously stretch the group? Yes? For a bit? Thank you.
Stay away from that guitar. I'm going to stay away from the guitar so I don't hit it. Well, I woke up with a poem today. I want to read it to you because it relates to the Qigong form. So this is a poem by Rumi. And as I read it, I felt like I was doing the Shibashi. When you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. When actions come from another section, that feeling disappears. Don't let others lead you. They may be blind, or worse, vultures. Reach for the rope of God. And what is that? Putting aside self-will. Because of willfulness, people sit in jail. The trapped birds' wings are tied. Fish sizzle in the skillet. The anger of police is willfulness. You've seen a magistrate inflict visible punishment. Now, see the invisible. If you could leave your selfishness, you would see how you've been torturing your soul. We are born and live inside black water in a well. How could we know what an open field of sunlight is? Don't insist on going where you think you want to go. Ask the way to the spring. Your living pieces will form a harmony. There is a moving palace that floats in the air with balconies and clear water flowing through. Infinity everywhere, yet contained under a single tent. You see why I thought of Qigong? Your living pieces will form a harmony. There is a moving palace that floats in the air with balconies and clear water flowing through. Infinity everywhere, yet contained under a single tent. So here we are. Taking a deep breath, feeling the shoulders come back and contact with the floor. Maybe the feet are parallel, the knees are soft. Another full breath. And we start sinking, and the pieces form a harmony. Lifting up, breathing in, and breathing out. A moving palace. And now we're lifting and opening. And lifting overhead. And now releasing the arms, sinking, crossing the wrists. We lift up, turn the hands over, and separate the clouds. Open to the side, push and pull. Notice how the hands know where the other one is. Now drawing both hands back, coming overhead and sinking. Lifting across as the sun rises and then sets. And turning to gaze at the moon. Releasing the arms, lifting, checking over here. I missed you all last week. There weren't too many of us here, and the floorboards didn't creak the same way. Press across. Okay, reach across and focus on the palm. Let the other palm face towards the earth, and then draw the hand across like a cloud in the sky. And switch. Okay, and we'll open the stance a bit. Splash in the sea. Rock back, lifting the toe. Feel the weight on the forward foot and then the one in the back. Most of the weight's right here, and then it's back here. Riding the waves. Opening the arms. And back to the other side. So we can splash in the sea over here. riding the waves. And opening the arms. And back to the center. Make a fist sink, let the dragon rise from the sea. And then up on the toes, we'll soar with the cranes. And then turning the wheel. We change direction. And back to the center. Lifting one arm and one leg. Okay, coming back to our centering breath. And then as we bring the movement to a close, there's a stillness in the form. We stop taking postures, but then we can feel that river of energy continuing. Where does awareness settle on that river of energy in this form right now? And then bringing our hands together next to our hearts. Thank you for joining us and me. Thank you very much.
Well, now that was fun. First time ever I got to play with children, play songs. It was great. Yeah. I have here some 3x5 cards and a bunch of pens, and I'm going to pass them out. And just a little concerned about time. I could create anxiety. There won't be enough time. But then, maybe there's just what there is. If you have your own pen, that'll be good. There might be almost enough. What I'm going to ask you to do is to peek into that box that we opened a little bit before, which is, what is it that your mind says to you that is really unwelcome and that you'd like to get rid of? Sometimes in the realm of self-hatred or whatever it is. And then we'll collect them all up. Don't put your name on them. They're anonymous thoughts. And maybe 2 or 3 people could spread them out. Gosh, I sound Canadian today. And pens, papers, cards, pens and pencils. Cards, pens and pencils. Here you go. Yahoo! And then when you finished this, if you'd put your card in here, or no, we'll send this around. It's kind of an unusual collection basket, collecting the worst. The question, what does your mind say to you that you'd really like it to just stop? For you. For you. For you. For you. For you. Would you pass these out? Out. Would you take these to this side and pass them out? Huh?
This is like the loaves and fishes. There's about 45 pens in it.
That's how we get our pens. People put their own in, they make a mistake. Ah, here we are. Getting close.
You learned to shy away, afraid to face the task. Now things you'd like.
Are we done? That was quick. Eeks. Toxic Sudan. Hazmat. My Dharma teacher, insurance doesn't necessarily cover this level of risk. Ooh. Wow. Well, while you were doing that, I was reminded of a song. So I'm going to play it for you. It's by a singer-songwriter from right here in Portland, John Kellerman. Haven't seen him or heard of him in quite some time. He was very active at PIMC 18 years ago. He wrote a song for my 50th birthday. But this is a song for the moment. So
hard to please. You tried so hard to please, but you weren't good enough. You learned to shy away, afraid to face the task. Now things you'd like to do seem out of reach to you. You've been encumbered by the shackles of the past. You tell yourself the things you heard in just that tone of voice that stops you in your tracks. And you believe every word as if you can't talk back, you're shackled by the past. When will you tell yourself those words you long to hear? Will you accept yourself and use your gifts at last? When will you ever see that you're already free? When will you overcome those shackles of the past? You tell your kids the things you heard. A shadow falls across their faces like a mask. You're handing down the family curse. Another generation shackled by the past. You try to get it right, it's never good enough. And so you shy away, afraid to face the task. When will you ever see that you're already free? When will you overcome those shackles of the past?
thank you, John Kellerman. Boo. Wow. was driving somewhere, listening to the radio. Came upon these people debating whether President Obama was faking when he had tears about those little children in Sandy Hook. So I'm going to be very careful not to have tears here, because it would clearly be to manipulate people into... Boy, how frightened we all are. So, somehow I'm thinking of this as setting off into the new year here. I mean, what a silly thing, the new year. Totally an arbitrary concept. But it structures our lives some, so therefore it has some meaning for us. And I guess I want to underscore my intention has been and continues to be as clear a conduit of the Dharma as I can, and to facilitate the creation of community. And both are happening to the clearest ability I can, and there's more and more interconnection here at PIMC. And people are participating in deeper and deeper ways, and I'm very grateful. I'm kind of amazed, actually, sometimes. So, please let us become aware that we're sitting here. And what's really happening right now? Sitting. What do we really have right now? What can we really know? It's our sense doors: seeing, hearing, sitting, smelling, tasting, and thinking. And it's becoming clearer and clearer to me that our human dilemma is that we keep mistaking thoughts as real. We believe our thoughts. In fact, for the most part, most people have no perspective at all on the fact that the mind wanders. Hence, we believe our thoughts. And that means we can get caught up in ideologies and occupy the Malheur Wildlife Refuge in order to liberate it from the government and return it to the people. Or we can speak angrily to our child because we don't have enough mindfulness or awareness to notice that that's coming up. Or all of these. At the macro level, what's happening on the planet, and at the micro level, what's happening in our own minds. Our dilemma is that we don't see thoughts as thoughts. It starts really early with the first words. Robert. Robert. Is there really a thing that's Robert, or is this a process that's moving through time and going to disappear? Good and bad. Well, there's these thoughts. Take a deep breath. Now, being very aware, this is a meditative practice, right? This isn't just hearing somebody talk. It's be aware of what happens when you hear these words. You always hurt people. Should I go to the memorial service to please someone else? I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. I am not good enough. I am unworthy. I am not worthy. Bigotry, prejudice, jealousy. I worry about the stock market. Me first. I worry about 5 years from now. Self-doubt, judgment, failure. You don't matter. I'm afraid I'm going to fail and I won't be able to provide for my living. You're never going to find out the work you're meant to do here. This country is unbearable. I'm not to be trusted. I'm alone. If my husband would quit drinking, then I would be happy. I compare myself to others, and I'm not ever being good enough. I'm failing. I really hate my job and relationship, but I have to stay put. I lack the motivation to work on my goals. You are not good enough. You screw everything up, especially in relationship. Is there a theme here? You are a disappointment to everyone. I want to release the voice that says you're stuck, you cannot grow, and you will only be what you are now. You need to figure out your life purpose. My health is deteriorating and I'm dying. That the things I do and accomplish could be better, as it is not good enough the way it is. I'm afraid of being homeless and all the discomfort associated with the daily struggle for the essentials. I'm not good enough. Why would people listen to me? I am not of any significance. I am not worthy and I am not capable. I'll never be able to support myself financially, due to my health problems. Just a few more. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. This mind, it goes down the road of, will I ever find someone to love me? Will I ever be married, life partner? I can't read the last bit. Not good enough. You're not worthy. I am selfish. What am I doing? I hate myself. I'm not worthy. I'm not trying hard enough. Negativity. I doubt my competence in all things. I have to be liked by everybody. What's wrong with that? It's my second favorite neurosis. My mind says to me, I'm physically inferior and I would like it to stop. All right, 5 more. My worthiness depends upon the approval of others. I will be alone and isolated for the rest of my life, and I will die sad and lonely. Pretty judgmental or gratuitously negative thoughts in general. You will always be alone because there is something fundamentally wrong with you. The basic shame thought. I'm not good enough. I'll screw this up. I have made a mistake. There's not enough time and not enough money. My mind is grasping for being with someone I love. I feel this grasping attachment damaging our relationship. I would like to let go of this grasping and attachment. You have to be the one that everyone likes the best, or else you're not good enough. I'd like to release the cravings for things I do not need that do not serve me. Example, the extra piece of cake. And there's a drawing. If my mind is obsessing about someone or something, I'd like it to just stop. It's hard to stop myself here. That I am not worthy of being loved by lovers, intimate partners, children, friends. Well, please take a moment to look around and see each other. And if you feel so inclined, reach out and take a hand and just touch another person. One of the things that this Hoffman fellow said, he had a teacher, I can't remember the words exactly, he had a teacher back in 30 years ago. It changed his life. The teacher said something like, every person is of infinite value, or every person, I forget the words exactly, but that's what stuck for me. And to not see that in each other and ourselves means that we're caught in ideas, right? I wish we were sitting in a circle now, me sitting up here in the front. It took years to actually move off the floor and to sit up here. It works better sitting up here because I can see everybody. But the separation seems really, I don't like it. One of the "there's something wrong with me" patterns that I meet a lot, when I talk to people about their meditation, it's very commonly, I'm not doing it right, or I'm not getting anywhere. So there's something wrong with me even in meditation. And what that means is there's an image, a fantasy, an idea, often from a book, against which we're comparing ourselves. Or there's an experience we had on a retreat somewhere, sometime, that we've put on the altar of idealization, and we're saying, well, that would be success, if I could only feel that all the time. And that almost always is blissful, content, spacious, at ease. The neurotic mind has stopped. The heart is really open. And then that's seen as the way it is. Please rein in any anxiety about the phone. It's so damnably hard to be perfect. You know? To remember to turn off your phone, to remember to brush your teeth and floss, and et cetera, et cetera. It's just so impossible. In exactly the same way as it's impossible to be in a human body, in a human life, and not be part of the sine wave. The mind is concentrated, and then it's not. The relationship is really smooth and delicious and wonderful, and then it's not. And then the health is really good, and then it's not. And then everything exists in polarities. And it's so much harder to be a human being than we let on to each other. We go around pretending that we've got it together. And please raise your hand if you've really got it together and you don't really suffer anymore. I always think of this. The Buddha died of food poisoning, 82 years old. He's kicked out of where he was staying for 30 years during the rainy season. The son of Bimbisara decided it was time to have the throne, so he killed Dad and told the Buddha, who'd been there with his monks during the rainy season for 30 years, he said, "Get out." So the Buddha at 82 or so was walking across the countryside in India en route to somewhere during the rains, during the monsoons, when he had this meal of bad meat and fell ill and died. Now, how much he suffered psychologically, I think not much. But that's a tough way to go, to die of food poisoning. He also had headaches. So, inner voice, stay on track. Okay. You'll be in trouble if you forget what you're talking about. We were raised, every single one of us, by very flawed people. And doesn't matter what socioeconomic level we were raised at. There were less sufferings of a certain kind when there was enough of everything, like when there wasn't famine or food. But we all experienced failures of empathy. Our caregivers were inadequate. Or the attachment people say, if they were attentive 30% of the time, that's good enough, because we get to function normally. But every single one of us has a wound which almost always is interpreted as there's something wrong with me. If there wasn't something wrong with me, she would have loved me. He would have loved me. He wouldn't have died if there wasn't something wrong with me, or she wouldn't have left, or he would have stopped drinking, or and this is way down inside. Oh, I just remembered something. I was going to read you a poem. I will. It's about this topic. I don't hope it's okay to share this. It's mine. Where'd it go? Poetry, Robert. So a little context for this. When we're very little and we're just forming a self, which we have to do to make it through the lifetime, we must go through somebody training. When the empathic bridge breaks, when the caregiver can't meet us, there's kind of like a falling away of the world. It's like being on a trapeze and you reach for the next trapeze and then it's not there. You fall. And it's awful. It's not awful, it's absolutely, it's the end of the world. And I've been, and what we do is we grab onto the next thing we can, and that's the beginning of some of our neurotic holding on to that which doesn't really nourish us. We take it. And then even when the real nourishment is there, we can't take it because we can't quite trust it. You recognize this? Right? Sometimes we push people away. In my meditative journey, the process for me has been experiencing greater and greater freedom and ease and indescribable moments. At the same time, it has revealed greater and greater agony. As the structure, as the personality has been revealed, as there's been enough ego strength to experience deeper and deeper of the earlier woundedness. Just making sense? Does it make sense within yourself? I experienced, Ruth Dennison died in February. Oh, there's the tears. And then I experienced another personal loss. And I was in a bodywork session and it all opened up. And it opened up into this place of no arms and desperation. And then the next day, blessedly, I have a wonderful person that I do some therapy with, and trust her. I've known her for 12 years, and she was doing some eye movement desensitization, EMDR. And I knew where I was headed, all that concentration and mindfulness. I decided I want to go there again. I'd like to look in that box. And it opened, and I was able, with her presence and the concentration and mindfulness that had been building over all these years of practice, to hang with that for a lifetime. It was probably 10 minutes, which was really long. And this poem came afterwards. And it's called The Hiroshima of My Heart. And what's his name? The fellow who was the first person to study the Hiroshima survivors spoke of the difficulty for them. They were horrible. I mean, there was loss and so on, but also we recognize our child. Maybe go, the parent. Went on for about 10 years after I no longer had infants. Every infant still pulled me. It's not yours. Phew. It's not my penguin. Their city was gone. Their city was gone. Their landmarks were gone. And in that place of early wound, which I believe we all have, the landmarks are all gone because we don't even have cognition yet. We're just. So that's important to know. And then the other is, my understanding of the goal of meditation was, for a long time, for years, to just get enlightened and get the hell out of here. It was a nihilistic, I want to catch the brass ring, I want to get enlightened, and I want it just to stop. Slightly off balance in that. So I called it the puff of smoke model. I'm going to get enlightened, and then I will just be gone, and I won't get reborn ever again. And it didn't have much to do with this present moment is where freedom lies, and it doesn't matter what's happening in this present moment, because there's a part of us that never was born, and learning to intuit or rest in that is where freedom lies. It doesn't lie in making things all okay, because human life will never be all okay. It's always going to have pleasure and pain and gain and loss and vicissitudes. So here's the poem. Forever alone, no floor, no arms, falling, empty. Love is delusion, connection a trap. Everything died, no time, forever alone, flies buzz, endless blistering afternoons. No wonder enlightenment is annihilation, stopping, ceasing to exist, and just fucking be done with it. Forever alone, no floor, no arms, falling, empty. Love is delusion, connection a trap. Everything died, no time. Forever alone, flies buzz, endless blistering afternoons. No wonder enlightenment is annihilation, stopping, ceasing to exist, and just fucking be done with it. That's these. Right? Fortunately for us, that's just one piece of our structure. Helpful to know about. And I make sense of the entirety of the Satipatthana Sutra, the Buddha's teachings on the four foundations of mindfulness, is all about developing concentration, mindfulness, and so on, all the enlightenment factors, so that we can study the body the feelings, the thoughts, the mental formations, and then all the mental phenomena. And we study them all, including these patterns, this pattern, for instance, or these patterns, these belief patterns. And we study them all with one purpose in mind. And that is that we realize that none of them are who we are. Right? They are all impermanent. They are all anatta, not self. They are all dukkha, unsatisfactory. But in order to recognize that they're not who we are, we have to be able to articulate them very clearly, and that's where the Buddha's teachings are so elegant. Right? So I learned to study the body, and for instance, let's take a conscious breath together. Did you feel a breath? Or was there actually awareness of sensations? If we experience it as I feel a breath, we're telling ourselves a story. We're living in a fantasy. I feel a breath. Because what is there? Or let's rub our hands together. Rub your hands. Make them hot. Do you feel hands rubbing on each other, or is there heat? It's heat. Is there any one feeling heat, or is there just heat? In the seeing, no, I won't go there. Not very many people in this time or any time. Most people who came upon the Buddha didn't buy it, you know. Lots and lots of people heard the Buddha and were unimpressed. Some people had direct encounters with him and walked away, this guy's deluded. So there wasn't a golden era. There have been times of greater awakeness than others, but actually there wasn't even really a past. All there is this, right now. Jigsaw piece. What's the piece? It would be really grim if we were to believe, number one, believe in these, which of course we are entranced. And I'm sorry I didn't get to read them all. I will read them all, but I couldn't in the group. If you think of this that you wrote, I invite you to start thinking of it as a trance state, as a hallucination, as a program, as a maladaptive attempt to be safe. And to see it as a thought, as a story. Because that really is all it is. It's a story. And I get to meet over the years with many, many people with lots of self-hatred, and I was one. Lots of self-hatred. And I feel very confident in saying that, well, you know, self-hatred is really pretty awful and it's quite crippling, but it's not that deep in the psyche. It's not that insurmountable. It's just we don't know the tools. We don't know how to approach it. And Satipatthana Vipassana, insight meditation, is one of our most powerful tools. And kind of add to that the capacity to turn toward these fantasies, these stories, these thoughts, and to see them as thoughts, and to grieve the grief that's in them, and to embrace them, to stop pushing them away, but actually to set a place at the table, to set a place in the table of your heart for the self-hatred, for the fear, for the self-criticisms, to let them exist, because in that letting them exist, it's not that they don't exist, it's just that they're habits, they're patterns, they're just ideas. Powerful. One of the most pernicious ideas, and I must say, I've been working on this my whole life, consciously the last 5 or 10 years. It's another belief about getting enlightened. We get the idea that if I were to become more awake, or become really awake, I wouldn't have this personality, or I wouldn't have this body. I'd be able to walk through walls. That kind of silliness. Well, that's not true. This incarnation, this birth, this matter creature is one end of a polarity, at the other end of which is everything and everyone. And we are both. So we don't have to get rid of anything. In fact, good, nice loop, thank you, mind. In your meditation, I encourage you, stop fighting anything. Don't struggle to get concentrated. I meet people who've been meditating for 20 years and are still striving to get concentrated, despite the fact that their life is really quite in uproar and so on. And they're just, oh, I'm not meditating because I can't get concentrated. What a crazy belief. Why not sit down on your couch and watch how unconcentrated the mind is? Perfect practice. I'm not meditating because it's too painful. Well, now that's a little more understandable, because when you sit down in the midst of pain, it really hurts. But how are we ever going to realize that we're not that unless we're willing to sit in the middle of it? And then in the middle of the hottest fire, there's this space. When thinking about this, I was reminded of some years ago. We had a beloved dog named Collie, and she was hit by a car, and we brought her home, and I spooned my partner, Nancy Turner, the co-founder of PIMC, with me. And she just let loose and was crying, and after about half an hour, she was done, and I asked her, is it okay with you if I just relax and let go? And so I had Kali in my lap, and she had lost some skin, and she's dead. And I observed this crying, and then this roaring started, and then I hate you, God, it's in the Catholic roots. It just went roaring, just incredible tumult. And behind it, or before it, around it, was absolute peace. There's a part of us that isn't even caught up in the upsetness. It's just aware. And that's not something that is unique to me. I believe that's true for every single one of us in this room. If we will just allow ourselves to be, the awareness predates us. So, why not, here at the beginning of the year, why not make a vow, a plan, that every day you're going to stop for half an hour and just sit there? And maybe use your breath to come home to develop a little concentration if that works. Or use a mantra or something else. But give yourself a break every day, that all you have to do is stop and notice what is. It's that teaching from the Thai forest tradition. I think of it, I teach it on retreats as the secret teaching, which is, if you want to bring your practice into complete balance at any moment, remember these words. This moment is like this. It's a moment of concentration. It's a moment of ease. It's a moment of anguish. It's a moment of total anxiety. Yep, that's what this moment is. No battle. and these. Oh my. We could frame it in a vocabulary of our inner child, and then this top dog, nasty person structures. Don't they all need love? Right. What does that nasty part of yourself really need? It just needs love. Similarly, that frightened little kid part. How do we love it? Well, we let it be. We let it exist. Right? If we can't let the present moment exist, we're always at war. It's kind of a funny thing. It already exists, and then we set up the self, which is, no, I will not have these thoughts. They already happened. And when that happens, what to do? Oh, it's this. Oh, here's that battle with the self again. Ah, thank you for sharing. Home to the moment. I will hold these with the greatest of respect, and I will take them home to my fireplace this afternoon and offer them. And I invite you to take them to the altar of your hearts and embrace them, and then see that they're just thoughts. Thoughts and emotions. Oh, announcements. There's something that we do that's done in the Buddhist tradition called taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And in religious Buddhism, it's kind of magic. Well, it is kind of magic. I don't know if... I want to just describe what I think I mean by the Buddha. The Buddha means that in us which is awake. It doesn't mean this wooden statue, nor does it mean someone who lived 2,500 years ago. It means also that. And he was a pretty remarkable, ordinary human being, Siddhartha Gautama, to put all this in motion. So there's the Buddha taking... But where shall we take refuge? Why not take refuge in that moment of awakeness, in that mystery of being awake? What else should we take refuge in, since everything else is totally out of control? Why not refuge in the Dharma, in the way things are, in the fact that everything's impermanent, in the fact that the self is really a manifestation of the all? That's refuge in the Dharma. When you're hurting, refuge in the Dharma means I'm hurting. When you're joyous, it means there's joy. And then refuge in Sangha is community. And one can use this meditation for stress management, and you can do that on your own a bunch. It works. You can use it for lots of psychological growth, and it really works. However, to do it in community with one another, and to support one another, and to fill in the holes where the caregivers weren't here, right? Freud called it the corrective emotional experience. We all need corrective emotional experiences. We need someone or ones that we get close to and we trust. And then we need a little help and we lean on them, and they're there. They're there. And then maybe they're not there. And then we have to process that failure between us. That's community. It's the work of relationship and the work of community. And that's part of what PIMC is about, is creating a place to have friends who are actually practitioners with us and who can make sense out of what we're talking about. And on that thread, in the announcement-y sort of thing, we've been talking about it for some time, and there's a significant need with a couple of our community members, extended community members, who are needing some support. And the support will come in the form of perhaps visiting them at home because they're very sick. Kathy at the back, would you raise your hand, Kathy? Kathy and Kate and I and Ethan have been talking about it for some time, and our hand has kind of been pushed in this because there's a pretty significant need. What generally happens here at PIMC is people get sick and they just disappear. I'd say that's a failure of our understanding of the teachings. For one thing, we can't ask. We have yet to figure it all out. But the immediate thing would be, if that interests you, if you might like to go to someone's home, do a few dishes, sit and meditate with them, not a massive, not a burnout level commitment. That's one of the things that we need to really figure out. This is not about taking over the responsibility for people's lives. It's about, I know when my mother was in the nursing home for such a long time, they brought her communion. Someone from her church brought her communion. So it could be that, bringing someone the Dharma, bringing someone just a moment to spend half an hour with them. So we're just in the organization phase, but if that interests you, if you would connect with Kathy, you'll be here during coffee and tea, and that'd be good. And not as, it's not as something separate from our practice, it is our practice. The Buddha came upon a monk one time who was very sick, diarrhea and vomiting, and no one was taking care of him. He took care of him. Okay. Do we have kids in the offing? Yes.
You had mentioned earlier that we might have an imam coming.
Yes.
Is that going to happen?
I hope so. I am negotiating with that possibility.
You'll let us know the week beforehand?
I will. Yep. Do you see a pile of papers near me here? Oh, they're out. Let's bring the kids in, please. And Jeff, will you come join me? And let's make a big circle. Okay, bring the circle up onto the stage, okay?
Behind you?
Yeah, behind me. Include Jeff and me. So when we sing to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, it's reminding ourselves of refuge in being awake to what is in this beautiful circle of community. And thank you, Jeff, for joining me. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. We have Buddha. are you doing here? Sitting in the middle of the room.
I know.
So let's find a hand. Can I hold you? We could hold 3 hands here. This is kind of fun. And this is okay, that's cool. So let us be aware of the precious contact with this hand to our left and the hand to the right. And just as this mind is capable of thinking really crazy things, it's capable of thinking really loving and sensible things like, I hope you're really happy today. Or, may you be healthy and may your meditation seat call to you. So whatever would be a loving, kind thought that you'd come up with, why don't you give the hand to your right a little squeeze with that. And you can know there's someone on your left who's wishing you well. Ow, not too hard. Got to be careful with you boys, just to cool it over there. Left hand, give that a little squeeze, a gentle, loving squeeze. And then we could imagine that this squeeze goes around our circle to every heart and every hand. We could remember that each of those challenging thoughts that I read actually exist in someone in this room. So why would we not wish each other well? Right? We have so much in common. And so does everyone else on this earth. 7 billion of us. So may we all remember our true great nature. May we all remember that we are not the thoughts we think. We are something of infinite value and infinite majesty and beauty. And so, we have our singing ritual. Do we have, right there, the 2 of you, you're conveniently together. When you're ready, may all beings be happy.
May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you. And now the ancient ritual brought to us since the time of the Buddha, the making a wish and blowing out the candle. Whoops, a daisy. Have we got some good grown-up hands on the table? So on the usual count, we're going to blow out, but everyone in the whole room gets to take a deep breath and blow out at the same time. 1, 2, 3, blow! Yes! We did it. I think we got it. It's, keep on it. There's still smoke. So thank you, my dear friends. Please come and have a cup of tea and some goodies, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Goodbye, those of you that joined us on the net. Thank you.